In the newly rediscovered longer cut of the film, two of the more well-known deleted scenes, the heart attack and the follow-up scene back at the house of the relatives, have resurfaced. But there were two character beats involving Chow Mei, played by Maria Yi, still missing from the film. The first is after Shu Chen, played by James Tan, is bragging about his fight against the gambling den thugs, in which Chow Mei enters the scene, presumably to finger wag at the men for the youngest cousin being awake and or worried about Chang not getting enough sleep before his first day of work. There are a few abrupt jumps in the audio in the reconstructed cut around when third uncle wakes up, panicking that Chang was in a fight.
海底捞月，那得家里吃饭怎么样了？老板，你也打架了？没有，我是说朝安站在我旁边，差点挨了一拳。哦。
The second is after the bridging shot of the morning sunrise. In both the standard final cut and the reconstructed cut, the shot starts with Mei seemingly looking off into the sunrise. However, if you listen carefully, you can hear footsteps in the distance. And aside from this, you'll notice that Chow Mei is holding a tray of drink glasses. A photo of her seeing Chang and the uncle off with said glasses has made the rounds for a while, implying that there was indeed more to the scene. And with the footsteps recorded, it's implied the scene was already prepped in post-production. As the film was already creeping on 2 hours, and Bruce's first true fight scene not being until nearly an hour in already, these were most likely cut amidst the first attempt to get in more theatrical showtimes per day. To say that The Big Boss is one of the most well-known cases of censorship in Hong Kong film of the 70s is an understatement. And while many gravitate towards a later scene involving another stall, one of the most brutal scenes in even the final mainstream cut of the film involves the deaths and containment of Chan and Wong. Rumors swirled for years as to what extra footage was in this sequence, including dumping body parts into the ice boxes. In the recently rediscovered longer cut, only one additional segment to back this claim up appeared, with Chen Zhe's manager tossing in a severed head as the box fills with water. However, jump cuts in the audio after the circular saw begins to cut through Wong implies even more was removed after the initial release. This is a strange one. As many hardcore fans of the film know, while the original Mandarin trailer and some variants showed 3 of the missing scenes, an earlier 8mm version of the trailer had 2 additional deleted moments, one being the bloody head wound shot from Shu Chen's final fight, and the other being an additional shot of a body in the ice. While the former was found, and with a bit more footage than expected, the latter was nowhere to be found in the longer cut. The question left is, why? The shot in and of itself doesn't seem any more violent than most of the other graphic scenes in the film, so it may have been another case of trimmed down as much as possible to hit a certain runtime for more showtimes before inevitably deciding, no, it needs to be cut down even further. Let's be honest, you knew this was coming. If anyone knows of at least one missing scene from The Big Boss, it's the saw on the head scene. Not a scene so much as it is a series of shots deleted from the film. The mythology behind the missing mere seconds has taken on a life of its own over the past several decades. Though its first widespread reveal in the West seemed to be during a moment in the 1993 documentary Curse of the Dragon, when one of the stills of the missing scene, showing the Thai stuntman drenched in fake blood with a modified saw on his head, was unceremoniously dropped into an unrelated interview. Though later into the 90s, in the early days of the internet, lobby cards from various territories showed a colorized alternate angle of the infamous moment. And even now, this is all that remains. That 1 second of audio is the only evidence left in the film itself of the missing scene. While many think this is just a throwaway few seconds of a henchman being dispatched, one must also analyze the surrounding combatants. The most telling being Peter Chan-Lung's henchman in blue, whose continuity in the fight is initially pretty consistent, getting kicked into the vertically standing ice blocks earlier in the scene and remaining back there for most of the battle, only to get kicked into them again right before the fatal handsaw blow. Yet suddenly he's now standing in front of Bruce to get kicked through the door. While continuity in these fights might not have been perfect, it seems unlikely that Bruce would have let a jarring leap in character placement slide during fight choreography, especially since the other stuntmen seem to be in approximately the same locations. Overall, the irony is, while this is the most infamous of the missing footage, it's also the least likely to resurface at this point. In what was easily one of the longest pieces of reinstated footage in the longer cut of The Big Boss, we finally saw the infamous final visit to the brothel that had been briefly shown in the aforementioned original Mandarin theatrical trailer. It's very straightforward and lines up with what those who had seen the film at the 1979 Bruce Lee convention in London had previously recollected. However, there's one bit that some have talked about that was still missing. In the rediscovered cut, while there's no explicit on-screen sexual activity, with basically a desk fan being used as a transitional shot, there were rumors that when the film was first being put through the censorship process during its initial run, allegedly there was a lot more, we'll say, vocal work present in the scene, leading to another prostitute and her customer hearing the noise in another room, with said prostitute listening to the wall and her customer getting very anxious to hear it. But she would let him until he paid extra. Now, the theory is the woman in the pink dress who was sitting next to the prostitute that Chang chooses in an earlier scene was to be this other prostitute in the other room. The reasoning behind this is when there's the POV shot of Chang scanning everyone to make his selection, she's nowhere to be found. What's most interesting is that there's multiple photos of this woman in question being very cuddly with Bruce on the set, and some with the other actress as well. On that note, while no photos directly from that rumored missing excerpt of the brothel scene have come to light, one of the photos of Lee with the actress in the pink dress shows her hair looking a bit more disheveled and bedhead-like, and looking to be on a balcony of the bungalows where the bedroom interiors would have been shot. That, and the size of the bandage on Bruce's finger, lines up with the rediscovered portion of the deleted brothel scene. Granted, a lot of this is glorified theorizing, but like the Saw scene, it's the closest we may get. Despite what's been rediscovered in my deep dive on what's still missing, there's still even more rumored footage between what may have been filmed by original director Im Ga-sung or just general Mandela effect moments, such as Chang allegedly hallucinating that Wu Mong is suddenly standing topless during the party scene. But the question now is, where's the rest of this footage? Does it still exist at all? Regardless, for the time being, as fans of the film, the fact that we can celebrate any of the footage finally being brought back to the public to its widest audience in over 4 decades is a miracle in and of itself. It's a day that I personally began to think I would never see, and I couldn't be more grateful that I could be a small part of it. Now, if you don't mind, in the spirit of Shu Chen, I'm going to splurge a little and get a gallon of rice wine.